So the recordings have started. I'll go ahead and give instruction and I'll turn it back over to the chair. So again, tonight is a virtual meeting of Newtown Township. It is the Board of Supervisors meeting. We will be taking public comment one of four ways. Public comment can be dropped off at the blue drop box at the main entrance to the building, which is the library entrance. I will say I did check the blue drop box just a few minutes ago. There was no public comment in it. You may raise your hand during the Zoom meeting and you'll be recognized. You can do that either on your screen or by phone. If by chance you have trouble raising your hand or we are unable to recognize you for some reason or you're having trouble speaking, you may make public comment at newtowntownship.org. Or if you just wanted to make public comment that way, you could make public comment at newtowntownship.org. If it's because you're having trouble raising your hand or getting recognized, please make sure you include the screen name that you're in under, as well as your address so that we can, and your name, that we can recognize you. If you're in by phone, please use the phone number in which you called in by. Again, that's using, it's sending the information to public comment, one word, at newtowntownship.org. Mr. Chair, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Neese. Board was in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss 4 personnel matters. With that, Mr. Neese, will you please call the roll?
I will. Mr. Nahn.
Present.
Mr. Partridge.
Here.
Ms. Roberts-Lycap.
Here.
Mr. Russo.
Here.
Mr. Altieri.
Here.
Your solicitor, engineer, I say that. Yes, your solicitor, engineer, and manager are here.
Thank you, Mr. Neese. Let the record reflect that Mr. Altieri is coming to us live from his private jet. And
I'll try to block the sun too. I wish it was a private jet.
Mr. Altieri is on a train right now, so that's what would explain why we have the light and his mask and everything like that. So thank you for joining us, Leonard. We appreciate that. At this point, I'd like to have our moment of silence. We have on the agenda this evening to celebrate National Public Works Week. I was out today with many PennDOT folks doing some final inspection there on Westchester Pike. So in our moment of silence this evening, let's please keep in mind all of our public works workers, all of those who have to go out and work in our highway environment. Let's please pray that they all stay safe. All right, thank you. We have before us this evening's agenda. I'll entertain a motion for approval as written or consideration of any changes, additions, deletions. Who wants to start off?
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I would like to make an addendum to the agenda that the township enter into the license agreement with Delaware County for the secure ballot drop box, subject to final review and approval of the solicitor, retroactive for a term of 5 years, retroactive from September 14th of 2020.
Okay, is that your motion?
That is my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any other changes to the agenda? Any deletions?
Mr. Chairman, we would like, the staff would like to pull item 15.3, consider hiring a summer help / facilities cleaning person.
Thank you, Mr. Neese. Mr. Altieri,
Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Yes.
Yes, I am. But I also wanted to know, because I am coming from train and I'm concerned that I might get disconnected, if we can do this right after the minutes section, just because I'm concerned that I'll lose service as I did this morning.
Yeah, you know what? Just we'll probably take that just right after public comment if that works for you.
That works.
All right. So the motion was made to add an additional agenda item and delete item 15.3. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is seconded by Supervisor Russo. Any further questions or discussions on the motion to accept the amended agenda? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now have a couple of public comments here, which I will now go through as best I can. This is what we have received as of the time of the start of the meeting. First is from Cheryl Grasso, 3514 Goshen Road. Dear Newtown Township Supervisors, please agree to reinstalling the ballot box located in the township to be used for November election. Next is from Ed Gross. I respectfully request that the drop box be reinstalled in the township building in time for primary election and for use in subsequent elections. This is a nonpartisan matter and will benefit many people who need this service. This is evidenced by the volume of ballots that were placed in the drop box in the November 2020 election. Thank you. We have one from Ellen Gross at the same address as Ed Gross. Taking away our drop box is not a partisan issue, but an issue for how you, our supervisors, represent your constituents. Why don't you help make our lives easier? We have one from Holly Rutkowski. So supervisors, we are now kind of a laughingstock in Delaware County. Seriously, you took the ballot box away. What are you thinking? I can only assume that in between this big lie, I can only assume you were believers in the big lie, whatever that is. What other reason could you possibly have based on the fact you took away the safe and secure ballot box and wasted about 10 to 15 in installation costs to prove what point? I don't care about the legal mumbo jumbo you are spouting. Is evident the fact that you really don't believe in making safe and secure access to voting a reality. All you had to do was just call up the county and say you're going to keep it. So please act like you actually believe it in American democracy and reinstall the ballot box now. I have Janet Elliott. Janet did not provide an address, but we'll read it anyhow since we know who Janet Elliott is. Please reinstate the ballot drop box for the ballots in November. Township building, there's no reason why we shouldn't have it. The next is from Joanne Andrus. Please reinstall the ballot box for our township. I have lived here and paid my taxes for 20 plus years and see no acceptable reason for having it removed. We have one from John Gershok. Board of Supervisors, why is Newtown Township the only township in Delaware County that does not have a mail-in voting drop box? I will disagree with that, as there's 41 drop boxes in the county and 43 municipalities, so someone else doesn't have one too. Why is the Board of Supervisors making it difficult for registered voters to cast their legitimate mail-in ballot? Where is the reason the Board of Supervisors have limited the mail box drop-off? Why are we trying to suppress the number of votes during the primary election? As a registered voter in Citizen New Township, I protest this action that the Board of Supervisors has taken to remove the mail-in drop box and demand it be reinstated early before Election Day. We also apparently received one from a Kathleen Greshok at the same address, but was not able to attach that to the minutes. It came too late. So we'll acknowledge that we received one from her. Next one we have is from Marilyn Berberick, but there is no address associated with Marilyn, so we will not read that one. And then there's one from Mark Johnson, who also lists no address, so that one will not be read. So those are the public comments we had on for agenda items, I guess we'll call it, since Mr. Altieri has added that back to the agenda. My only statement is, I guess, just to clarify a few points, folks seem to be misinformed to some extent, that Newtown Township has no authority to establish voting locations. That is the purview of the counties in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The previous agreement that we had signed with the county, that the county also signed, said that the ballot box expired on December 5th of 2020. There was certainly a concern that if we did not remove the box, that any votes put in there could be called into question, since there was no legal agreement for the box to be there beyond December 5th. So that's why we don't really have the power to put it back. In fact, I think as of right now, I don't believe it's in the township anymore. I believe the county has come and retrieved it. But with that being said, I believe we'll take care of this with the next agenda item. So this was added by Mr. Altieri. So I will let Mr. Altieri take it from here. Go ahead, Mr. Altieri.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As I said in the beginning, the motion that I would like to get a second on is for the township to enter into the license agreement with the County of Delaware for the placement of the secure ballot drop box for a term of 5 years, retroactive from September 14th, 2020, per pending final review and approval of the township solicitor.
Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Altieri, seconded by Supervisor Russo to reinstall the box, subject to review of the agreement by the township solicitor. Now, this agreement was supposedly came from the county. I guess what was, as of 11 o'clock this morning, there was no agreement pending. I believe, according to your email, Mr. Altieri, that agreement came in sometime after 11 this morning, which you shared with us about 6:30 this evening. The agreement that was shared is the same one that was signed last, I guess I want to say in September of last year, except it does not have the time limit that was on the original one. I'm assuming we're going to be getting a different agreement since the one that you shared already has my signature on it, and that would be improper to be voting on an agreement that was already executed. So,
No, the one that I sent from the county, Mr. Chairman, should be blank.
all right, I didn't
Is it
see
not?
that one. All I
Well,
saw
then,
was
I mean, so yes, so if that's not the correct one that I forwarded, I was at a funeral all day today in Washington, D.C., which is why I'm traveling via train and why I'm not able to send the email to the board, because I obviously wasn't looking at my emails as I was burying a family member. So my apologies to everyone on that. But what that's why the caveat is in there for the final view, final approval and review of the township solicitor. There's no material, substantive material changes to the term of the license, I mean, to the language of the license, except for the term.
okay.
So since it's been made and seconded, if I can just have discussion, if I can just make one comment, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. No, absolutely.
And I think that you said it perfectly. I think that there is a great deal of confusion over this. You know, being a lawyer, I can respect the legality of this, but the facts of the matter are very simple. Despite the fact that this turned into a partisan political rally by a former candidate for state representative and others who wanted to make this a partisan issue, this is nothing more than a legal issue. This is contract formation, and that's simple, plain, and true, full stop. On September 14th, 2020, this board entered into a license agreement, legally binding license agreement with the county for a term of for a term to be removed. A license is to expire 30 days after the November election. So to the one comment that this is somehow part of the big lie and conspiracy theory, that was before the November election ever happened. So again, it's just, there's no need for this partisan misfacts and misstatements to be fed when this is a purely contractual obligation. The county, on representations of our township manager and solicitor, we reached out to the county. We never heard responses from the county. And that is, again, another fact. So regardless of all that, we're talking about basic contract formation, offer acceptance and consideration. We do not own the box. We are not legally allowed to install the box. As the chairman said, had we installed the box without a license agreement, the ballots that were deposited, if they were to get in there, could have been called into question. It could have caused a bigger issue. So in terms of time, there's not going to be a ballot box in for the primary election, but it will be in there for the November election should this pass. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well said, Mr. Altieri. Any other members wish to issue comment?
Well, and to Mr. Altieri's point, if you do, you can drop if you do want to do a mail-in ballot and you are a Newtown Township resident, you can still drop your ballot off at other boxes in the county. Am I correct?
That is absolutely correct. You do not have to use the ballot box in Newtown. If you feel that's the way you want to vote, any of the 41 boxes in Delaware County can be used for this election to deposit your ballot. Any other board comments, questions?
Yeah, I just want to make one comment again. Just kind of is similar to the comments already made, but I certainly appreciate the ballot box placement in Newtown for the convenience of residents. What I've objected to all along is the handling of the issue by the county. So just again, similar to other board members.
Well said, Mr. Partridge. Any other comments from board members? If there's no other comments, I'm going to ask Mr. Neese to conduct a roll call vote for this. Motion was made by Supervisor Altieri, seconded by Supervisor Russo to replace the box or agree to the county's agreement to place the box on the township property. Mr. Neese, will you please do a roll call vote?
Yes.
And before we get there, Mr. Chairman, can I just say one thing?
Good, Mr. Altieri.
even recently, I know that I sit on representations of the township manager and solicitor prior to, April, and then again in April saying if they wanted to renew, send it to us. We didn't get it until today. I just wanted to make sure that point was explicitly clear because again, it's a fact and it's contract formation.
Thank you, Mr. Altieri. Thank you for clarifying. Go ahead, Mr. Neese.
Mr. Partridge,
Aye.
Ms. Roberts Lightcap,
Yes.
Mr. Russo,
Yes.
Mr. Altieri,
Yes.
Mr. Nahan.
No. Motion carries 4-1. Mr. Neese, I suggest you'll reach out to the county to get a clean copy of the agreement for Mr. Catania's review.
I will make sure we have what we need.
And I'll execute that once it's received and reviewed. All right, moving on. We have before us the minutes from the April 26, 2021 meeting. Would anybody like to offer a motion to approve the minutes or consideration of any changes?
So move as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor Altieri to approve the minutes from the April 26, 21 meeting as written. Any further questions or discussions on the motion? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda, we have a resolution 2021-19 recognizing National Public Works Week. Who will be reading that?
I have it here.
Go ahead, Mr. Partridge.
Okay, resolution number 2021-19, the Rhythm of Public Works, National Public Works Week, May 16th to 22nd, 2021. Whereas public works, infrastructure, facilities, and services are all of vital importance to the health, safety, and well-being of the people of the Township of Newtown. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated effort of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. Whereas it is the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Newtown Township to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in the respective communities. And whereas the year 2021 marks the 61st annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, be it now resolved, designate the week, May 16th to 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and the Canadian Public Works Association and government agencies and activities and events, ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. Adopted this 10th day of May, 2021. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Russo to approve resolution 2021-19 recognizing National Public Works Week from May 16th to the 22nd of 2021. Any further questions or discussions on the motion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have a presentation from Bruce Killen, our EAC Chairman, regarding the Native Plant Popup Garden. While Mr. Neese is allowing Bruce the opportunity to speak and address us, let me just say, I know I was out there this weekend with Supervisor Russo, Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, Supervisor Altieri at the pop-up garden. It was an outstanding time. I know I went home with a little bird sign for my yard now. So it was great. It looked really good. It's there until the 15th of May, I understand. So if you haven't had the chance to go see it, I would suggest you take a get down to the Township building. It's right there on the corner. You can't miss it. And go take a look and a walk through. Mr. Neese is
I'm here.
Oh, Bruce is here. Okay. Bruce, go ahead. Take it away.
John, you said everything I was going to say.
All right, cool.
Now, I just wanted to take a minute or two to thank the folks that were involved in our very successful launch of this pop-up garden. Janet Krevenas had both the inspiration and the coordination to make this thing happen, so we have to thank Janet. There were a number of parties involved from outside of the organization. They included the Pennsylvania Audubon Society, the Valley Forge Audubon Society, Tyler Arboretum, Willistown Trust, Mastardies, and Burke's Foundation. They were also members of the Newtown Square and Bloom and Parks and Recs, and a couple folks from the EAC, and gather in the circle. Township Administration, Public Works were both involved, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate the support of the supervisors for this event. Just wanted to mention that we also had two other events that occurred just recently. On the 5th, we had a virtual presentation by Mike McGraw on his perspective, or a biologist's perspective, of yards. And we also had a bird walk on this weekend on the 8th. It was very well attended at Garrett Williamson. Finally, I just want to mention that we have another event coming up on the 12th, and that is a virtual presentation by Vince Smith from the Audubon Society on the subject of converting yards to a native environment. And then finally, I wanted to just mention that the goal of the project was really to educate the people about the benefits of using native plants, and also to have them take some action to use them. So we're targeting both the residents, the commercial enterprises in the township, the developers, and the township itself to use as many native plants as they can to address their landscaping needs. And with that, I thank you guys for having the opportunity to talk here today.
Thank you, Bruce. Well
Thank you
done.
very
Well done. Outstanding. So get
Mr.
down there,
Chairman.
Township Building, go take a look at the garden if you haven't seen it yet.
Thanks, John.
All right, moving on, unless somebody has any other comments, we're going to move on. We have a report from our township engineer on the drainage survey and our action plan. Eileen?
Actually, from the last meeting, I was waiting questions from the supervisors, and I have not received any.
Well, I'd like to just ask you the one question I sent you about the other day over in the St. Albans area. Eileen, there seems to be some outflow pipes that go step into people's yards and then go, there's I don't want to call it a creek or a stream or brook or whatever behind for drainage.
That's
And then-
Rock's Run, yeah.
And then beyond that, there's sewer lines that cross that. I guess the sewer line, when it was put in, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, is back in that same area, general area. And that what I was shown was the erosion's making it wider. And they're starting to see the concrete encasement that I guess was put over the lines that went through the stream starting to become visible. But I'm talking also about the discharge out of the pipes that come directly from the storm drainage in the street. There just seems to be a lot of areas where there's no riprap, that it was just whatever they had, they threw in there, and there's a lot of erosion. So I just wanted you to look at that with George and see if there is any responsibility or whose responsibility is to maintain that. Because it seems to me that the outflows coming from the street, should be riprapped. And I wouldn't know that a resident would be responsible to do that. I just need you to look at it and tell us what the story is when you get a chance.
And yes, I did respond to your email that George and I will go take a look at that particular. What we found in some of these items coming to our attention throughout the St. Albans development is that when the original construction took place and the streets were dedicated, there were no easements recorded for these storm pipes that enter into private property. We're, at least in one instance, attempting to correct that. But I believe that this agenda item was for the 2 drainage studies, the one for the Upper St. Albans area with Tyson Horton Cayley and
Heights.
I'm missing one.
The
And
Heights.
then in the Heights. And those 2 were rather large reports that had to be sent by Dropbox. And Leonard had inquired as to where they stood. And it was a little bit of homework for you guys to bring questions to me if you had them, so that I could finalize those. But maybe that's going to take a little more of a maybe separate meeting to go through them.
Well, I did look at them. I didn't have any comments per se. Given the price tags, we have some homework to do to figure out how we as a board want to proceed with these. I guess perhaps I need to charge the other board members to take a look at them again if you haven't already. And then if we have no comments, then we need to sit down and figure out how we're going to pay for these and what our next steps are moving forward, if that sounds fair.
Yeah, and I think that this is partially my fault in the sense that I think I told a few of you that we had to do it at the end of the month. I don't know where I got those cables crossed, but I do remember I told a few of them that we had until the end of the month, and clearly I'm wrong on that. So I will take the responsibility for that mix up, and then I will get you something. I will get you something concrete, in the next couple of days.
Okay, yeah, I believe that's why this item was on the agenda. So
Yeah, as you're saying the story, quite frankly, it's coming back to me, but I know for a fact I told other people we had a month. So I
okay,
apologize.
no problem. I mean, it's just right now it's in your court.
So Eileen, I'm sorry I'm looking at, I did look at this before, and there are grant and funding opportunities. Is that, I guess this is actually a question for Steve. If we do pursue these, would we do the grant writing, or how would that work? Because the price tag is pretty hefty, but this work's we've got to figure out a way to get these issues resolved. So I guess the question is if we can get grant monies, what does that mechanic look like?
Yeah, I think that we might consider doing a joint approach between Eileen as our engineer and our staff trying to write these grants, where she might write up the project because she knows it and would be able to put it into words probably a lot faster than we would be able to translate everything. And then have staff fill in all of the history of the township, work with our public works department, our finance department together, and try to put together the wording that would be needed.
Mr. Neese, and again, I don't even want to try to get into this discussion, but considering how limited grant funds generally are, we're going to be submitting with 100 of our closest friends for, money that probably doesn't exist. Is it make sense for us to, as a board, to prioritize these projects, understanding that there's probably absolutely no way we would ever get both grants for both projects at the same time. So the question becomes, do we want to try to prioritize these projects and submit one first and see what happens, or?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I don't think we'll get both. One of the things that we've not discussed yet, and I'm still waiting on some clarification, we still have probably some dollars coming from the CARES Act that we may be looking at. And one of the recommendations I know staff is going to make to you would be that we would use it for stormwater infrastructure projects if that's allowed. And it appears that that is going to be allowed. And it would be something that could maybe kickstart that process.
Can you still hear me? Hello?
We do right now. I can.
Okay. Everything froze, so I apologize. I'm in a tunnel.
So anyway, but we're still waiting to even get that funding, and we're still waiting for clear direction on that. Hopefully we'll have that in the next 30 days. That does not answer your question totally, but that's one place that we could start. And I realize that's not even beginning to cover all the costs. So these projects are expensive, and I think we could go through grant dollars. I think like anything, we're going to have to prioritize.
Right.
We're going to have to set direction. We're going to have to say where are the worst spots, or do we do, can we do part of a project to get the project in 2 neighborhoods to get them starting to, starting to get immediate help to some of the places that are at the worst off. And that's part of why Eileen did the surveys that she did and the information that we have, and going back and looking at those, I think will help us determine that prioritization.
Kind of like we do with streets.
I would think,
program.
I think that's a good way to look at it. And to be honest, we have not talked about, although many communities have, they have a stormwater fee to help cover and address some of these things, and it's based on impervious coverage. It's based on impervious coverage and those kind of things. And I know we tend to steer away from those things, but these are big ticket items over time, and it's going to take a lot of funding. And so I think that'll probably be part of our discussion next Monday night as we're talking about, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes as we start talking about budget.
Okay.
And to just to piggyback off of Bruce and the EAC, part of this native plant, this pop-up garden educates us as homeowners on how to help mitigate in our own small way stormwater management. If you've got native plants, as it was explained to me by Janet, was that plants have longer root bases than grass does. So plantings control the stormwater more so than just grass. You see grass, you're like, oh, it's an impervious surface, or it's a pervious, it lets water go through its system, but native plants are a better solution. So I encourage anyone who's interested in doing their own small part of this is to go and look at the pop-up garden. It's a really great education.
Do we want to not, I guess if we're going to talk about this as part of the budget process at our next Monday night, do we want to hold on putting this back on the agenda until we've had that discussion, and then we could decide when the appropriate time to put this on? And in the meantime, the board can get any comments they may have to Eileen regarding this.
I think it's the inverse. I think we want to kind of dovetail it. I think we can still give her our questions and our comments. And at the same time, we're getting clarification on that. It'll be able to give us a better idea of what needs to be prioritized at the same time that we do it with Steve.
No, that's fine.
I think we kind of run it parallel for right now.
Parallel?
Yeah, well, a cramped spot in your seat.
You got it. All right, any other questions on this item? If not, we'll move on to 11.2 and we'll allow Mr. Neese to take the floor.
So I was going to follow up real quick and just say, please do try to catch the pop-up garden if you can between now and the 15th. However, it will be being moved to the St. Albans Circle and in front of the RE/MAX building. If you happen to miss it, the setting is absolutely beautiful where it is right now. It's a lovely way to walk through and get to see all of that that's there, but it will also be over at the St. Albans Circle at the RE/MAX, in front of the RE/MAX building, starting the 15th. So just kind of letting everybody know that. The couple quick things, the Newtown Square in Bloom did a planting. They planted the same St. Albans Circle and several of the bus stops, and we want to thank them for having done that. The farmers market, if you recall, I believe at the last meeting we talked about getting some dates set for the staff and the board members to be able to be available at the farmers market. Our dates are down below, the 16th, the September 10th, July 16th, September 10th, and October 1st are the dates that we have set aside for the board and staff to be there to answer questions for folks as we go along. If you'll recall, I can't remember whether it was 2 meetings ago or maybe even 3, we talked about Edgemont's MS4 plan. They came in and they were requesting to do some work along Crum Creek. If you, as a municipality that shares the border of a creek, if you do work on one side of the creek, you have to do work on the other side if you're going to do MS4 improvements and have them count. And so Edgemont approached us about doing approximately 430 feet of Crum Creek down. It kind of backs up to the other side of where Runnymede is. They have a small tributary that feeds Crum Creek that they're actually doing a major project on. And then they needed to, in order for their project to be impacted properly, they needed to do work on Crum Creek as well. And they need permission from us as a board, as a township, before they can move forward. And what I hope to make sure everybody understands is that they'll get credit for fixing both sides of the creek. And so when John and I met with them, we met with the chair of their board and their manager. And basically we came up with the comment that, I think it would probably be all right for this project. We would potentially consider doing a section of Crum Creek in the future ourselves, picking up that, but then also consider doing joint projects MS4 wise going forward. And they were open to that, and they thought that was a reasonable solution, but they were looking for this. And our MS4 plan is kind of already filed for the next 5 years. I don't think we want to try to go and amend ours and do that. So that would be their request.
Let me just jump in, Steve. We did ask them, or I guess tell them that we expected them to provide us with information, community information that we could post on the website so folks knew what was going on with Crum Creek, since it wasn't our project. We also said that we did expect them to come to the a board meeting, a public meeting, and present the project, just, do a little presentation so the folks in Newtown knew what was going on, even though it wasn't our project. We said we would also look into what permits might be needed. We get permits for even our own projects. So we said, well, we want to, at least since you're doing work in our town, we at least want you to, apply for a permit. It's not like we would charge them since it's another town, but whatever permits are necessary for the work they're doing. And again, it's only about 500 feet of stream restoration. It's not a huge project, but we did expect them to at least, sit down with their engineers, see what permits would be necessary, and make application for those permits. And Steve's going to work with them to provide them a list of property owners that might need to be notified, although it seems like it may only be 2 property owners that are actually involved. So we are expecting them to be accountable for this project. So that's my only comment, Steve.
Yeah. Does the board have any objection to us basically right now? There will be a formal agreement that gets written up between the 2 municipalities. What they're looking for now, DEP is just asking for basically an email from either John or myself stating that the board is generally in approval of doing this.
Fine.
Everybody are good with this? Anybody object to it?
I'm good.
Okay. As long as everybody's good, we'll move forward. Just know that probably within 6 months or so, we'll probably be back before you with a full formal agreement of what that'll look like. And so we'll do that. A reminder that next Monday night, we're having a budget workshop. It's going to be all staff. I say all staff, it's all of your director level folks and myself will be there. And hopefully you as a board, public is invited. But our focus really is trying to talk about where we think we're headed for the budget. And it's more of a workshop. We're not making decisions. It's just giving us the marching orders of all the things that we need to be looking at and things we need to be checking on and looking for to make sure that we're ready to present the budget come the fall for you, with covering all the things that we want to have covered. We're going to look back at the strategic plan. What were some of the things we want to try to accomplish in the strategic plan in 2022? And once we get those goals kind of set and where we're headed, and then anything else that the board would like us to be looking at so that we can put a comprehensive budget together. Obviously, we'll be looking at the stormwater piece that we've already talked about as part of that as well. Just want to remind everybody of that.
Steve, what time does it start?
It'll start at 7 o'clock.
And just for planning purposes, do you have an idea on the time there?
I would hope that we could, keep it to not more than 2 hours. Just, maybe even less. It really kind of will depend on, as we get into discussions, how much time we spend on any one topic. But
yeah, that's fine. Just wanted an idea.
Sending an invite to everybody, Steve?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. Can you send an invite to the board, please?
Yes, we'll get an invite out, and it will be set up also on the calendar for the township, and we're advertising it and all the same requirements that we have for any meeting. But it is a workshop. That's the focus. I would make note, we've been working with the library as one of the things and it was in the budget to replace their carpet, and we've been working with a group to do that. We were hoping that would be done in May. That's probably not going to be the case. It looks like it's going to be in June. So we are working through. It's probably going to end up having a little bit of a challenge for us because they were going to move all the books into our meeting room. As part of that process, they have to, one of the things we found out, they took up a section of the carpet, and this is kind of what's been a little bit of a holdup. They think they're going to have to grind the floor and get up, I guess, all the old glue and all of that before they put the new carpet back down. And so we're working through all that. We're trying to get all that together for you. Right now, I'm looking at a budget. We're going to probably need to increase the budget for that project by at least $13,000, but we may have to do more than that if we have to find another place to put the books. So we're working through all that. I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up on that piece.
Steve, why would we have to find another place to put the books?
So potentially come June, depending on what the governor does, we may need to go back to in-person meetings. And so we would lose the meeting room as a place to store the books.
But if they're doing the carpet now, that's a whole month from now.
Yeah, but they're not able. We found out they're not able. The company that's doing the moving is not able to do it until June, in the middle of June.
Oh,
that's the problem.
There's no other company that can get to move the books. I mean, I don't know. It's a specialized company.
There are certain companies that do this, that move library materials, because unlike packing my house where I just put everything in a box and I guess put it in another room, I guess they have to keep everything in a very specific order in order to get it back on the shelves properly, like so that all the books aren't all over. I think they have there's some way they do this that's very set. Because I had the same comment. How hard is it to put it in a box and do it? But I guess it has to be like you keep the collection in order so that you can put it back when it's time to put it back.
Okay.
So we are looking to see if there's another option, but we're kind of running on a time schedule here trying to get it done. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. And I believe that's all the things that I have for you that's not already on the agenda further down.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Neese on any of this? Seeing and hearing none, we will move on. Next on the agenda is payments. We have, well, the two different things, so we'll talk them differently or separately. Item 12.1 is consider approving the $892.25 escrow release payment to Nina Binstein at 3733 Rosemont Pass for a completed grading project. Would anybody like to offer a motion for this item?
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor Partridge to approve item 12.1. Any further questions or discussions on the motion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next is item 12.2. Consider approving the pay request number 2 from Moore Construction Services, Inc. in the amount of $20,799.62. This is associated with the Clearbrook culvert replacement as approved by the township engineer. Would anybody like to offer a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Altieri, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Does anybody have any questions for our engineer on this item?
Do we have a time when this culvert has been hanging around for a while? Do we have any timing on when this is going to be completed?
Tina, they are substantially complete. I met Friday with them for the
Okay.
landscape restoration.
Mhm.
The 2 property owners there. We reviewed that and a few punch list items that they have outstanding. And they're anticipating getting the plantings done following some tree work that one of the residents is getting done within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Eileen.
Welcome.
And we're still holding about $5,500 for the landscaping, I understand?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Eileen on this item? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, item 13 under bills. We have 3 items. I think we can take them all at once. I had the opportunity before this evening's meeting to review the bills, and there's 3 different check registers across 2 dates, so I will read them. Check register A was dated April 28th, 2021 in the amount of $51,035, and it contained bills that were approved at the April 26th meeting. Check register A dated May 10th, 2021 was in the amount of $207,831.97. And then check register B, also dated today, May 10th, 2021, had a balance in the amount, or a total in the amount of $20,799.62. And that is my motion that we approve items 13.1, 13.2, and 13.3.
Second.
Motion is seconded by Supervisor Partridge. Any questions or discussions on the motion? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have developer releases. We have 2 of them. They're 2 different items. We'll take them separately. Item 14.1, consider approving escrow release number 3 for Hill Buick in the amount of $85,501.50. This will leave a balance of $43,458.48, and this is as recommended by our township engineer. Would anybody like to offer a motion on this item?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Does anybody have any questions for Eileen on this item? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of item 14.1, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 14.2 is consider approving the escrow release number 1 for the Newtown Square Presbyterian Church letter of credit in the amount of $102,930.50 as approved by the township engineer. The remaining balance will be $40,573.05. Anybody like to offer a motion on this item?
So moved.
Or second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap to approve item 14.2. Any questions or discussion for our engineer on this item? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to new business, item 15.1. Consider approving the purchase of accounting software enhancement to meticulously track all grant dollars awarded to the township at a cost of $4,000 and an annual maintenance fee of $1,350 starting in 2022 as recommended by the finance director.
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Mr. Neese, can you shed some light on this item?
Can we see it too? Can you move the page?
I'm sorry, yes. Sorry, I got busy making notes on my, for the minutes. Excuse me. Yeah, so this software, one of the things that the, particularly some of the federal requirements for software reporting for grants, in particular, you have to get into some very specific details as to where the grant dollars were spent and how they were spent. And this particular module allows for us to do that within the accounting system. It also would allow us, as we start moving forward, really looking at some of these stormwater projects and some of the other projects that we've talked about. When we really start doing these larger projects, it allows for being able to charge different types of services across the proper places of charging the cost, and then still at the same time picking up back at the end of the day, all under one project number, so to speak. So for example, you'll have engineering costs. You may also have cost of employees who are working on that particular project. You may have cost of some administration time that's on there, as well as public works time. And then you might end up with purchasing a particular type of item. And you might have a contract out with somebody who's doing some of the contract work themselves. And so, or, a third party. And so this allows all of that to be reported under like one heading. And if for grants, you use that grant as the project number, and you're able to charge everything back specifically. And it really helps, particularly when we're providing in-kind matches, where the township is saying that the Public Works Department, for example, is going out and doing a specific part of the project, or the administration folks are tracking a certain part. When you have to do these audits, particularly as we're going to be getting really close to potentially the dollar amount that would require us to do a yellow book audit, there's a lot more detail that has to be a part of that piece. And so this particular software allows you to track all of those different moving pieces and keep them under a single project.
Yep.
Any questions for Mr. Neese on this item? Motion was made and seconded. All those in favor of item 15.1, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 15.2, consider hiring 2 full-time public works employees at a rate of $24.50 per hour to fill both vacancies in that department.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Partridge to approve item 15.2. I know that we all know that we had 2 vacancies created, so this is just a matter of filling the vacancies that were created by some job action. So, and 1 retirement. So does anybody have any questions on this item? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We took item 15.3 off the agenda, so it moves us to item 15.4. Discuss how the township wishes to move forward with the phase 1 engineering for the Greer Park project. We have 3 options here. Number 1 is to use our current project consultant, URDC, to continue with the engineering. This second option is to appoint an engineer of our choosing, a different one, I guess. Or option 3 would be to put an RFP together to do the project. I guess before we get started, I'll add my comments that I think we're all very happy with the plan that was arrived at. by our current consultant, URDC, and I guess I'm wondering why we would be changing horses at this time. But I'll leave that up to other discussion. I don't know.
Option one for me.
Option 1, too. Also,
Denise, any need to shine any light on this item, or?
Yeah, I was just, I just wanted to make sure, I don't like to make the assumption that the people that we use to do our master plan are necessarily the people who you're going to want to use to do the design and the getting ready for build and all of those kind of things. But if you're prepared to do that, I'll let them know that you're interested in them doing that, and we'll get a proposal together so that you can have it to look at.
do you want a motion on this, or just want
I
the
think
board?
if you're giving me direction that we're going to get a proposal from them to do the project, I don't think I need any more than that. If you were wanting me to take another step, I might have asked you for a motion.
Okay.
Steve, is just to confirm, the steering committee and Parks and Rec, they're happy with working with URDC?
I would say that Parks and Rec and most of the members of the steering committee are happy with that. Yes,
Okay, because they're the ones who have to continue to work with them.
that is correct.
Okay.
And just to kind of piggyback off that, I spoke to Wade this weekend. He also informed me that he was in favor of keeping them. And I think I thought he sent a letter or was sending a letter to you, Steve, in support of that. But as far as I know, Tina, yes, to reiterate what Steve said, they are extremely happy with him.
Mr. Neese, we seem to have a agreement here amongst the board that we should continue working with URDC. So if you'll reach out to them and get a proposal that we can then consider, I think that's the thing to do.
I will do that.
Thank you. And that's it for new business. We have no old business listed. We have no additional business listed. Under item 18, would any board member like to offer comment? Outstanding.
No, I do. I'm sorry. I couldn't get
No,
off
sorry,
mute.
you can't make comments.
Wait, we can't hear you. You're going through a
Yeah.
tunnel. Wait, you're going through a tunnel.
We got
Yeah, we
a
can't
The
hear you.
lights are dimming. You're going through a tunnel.
Hurry up. I just wanted to remind everyone, I had it on my phone, that the free yoga and fitness classes, Yoga in the Park, which is part of the Parks and Rec, is doing that, start this Wednesday, May 12th, and are every Wednesday till September 1st. And I just want to kind of highlight something. So this is being done by Jolly Llama. She does this free of charge for residents to come in here. She started doing it, I guess, a few years ago as a way to give back to the community. Some people might not know this, but because of COVID, they actually had to shut down their physical location, and they've changed their business model a little bit. They're doing a lot of things more electronically through Zoom because people were just not coming back to the physical thing. From the way that it's been told to me, this is something that she never once questioned about getting rid of. And I think it speaks volumes of her, who's also, and I think her name is Danielle, who is a resident here in Newtown Township. It just speaks volumes to her commitment to this community, and I think it's worth noting that. And so again, it starts this Wednesday, May 12th, and is every Wednesday till September 1st.
What time, Leonard?
Oh, I knew someone was going to ask me that question.
And which park is it?
I will. It's Greer. It's going to be
Greer
at Drexel
Park.
Lodge Park. No, Drexel.
Drexel Lodge.
Drexel Lodge.
Drexel Lodge.
Thank you, Leonard.
And
Thank you.
Any other comments?
it's 5:30 to 6:30.
Yay!
6:30, all right. Good, thank you. Any other comments? All right, that brings us to the public comment portion of the meeting. If there's any members of the general public that would like to offer public comment on items that are not otherwise on the agenda, please raise your hand and we will acknowledge and hear from you. Mr. Neese, I see two hands. I saw Mrs. Wilson's up first, so let's go with Mrs. Wilson. Go ahead, Mrs.
Appointing
Wilson.
members to the Newtown Township Municipal. Okay. Patty Wilson, 4111 Battles Lane. As the Board of Supervisors are responsible for appointing members to the Newtown Township Municipal Authority, I make the following comment about their recent actions. At their meeting, the MUA voted to ignore the township's duty to connect ordinance and to grant waivers to a number of homeowners who will not have to connect to the public sewer that is adjacent to their properties. This is a violation of the township's commitment that they made to the DEP when they committed to the township's 537 plan. It is also discriminatory to all other homeowners who have been told they are required to connect and can only defer for 10 years or until they sell their homes. The actions of the MUA are not fair to all of the residents. My husband and I have recently got a proposal to connect to the public sewer from our house to the street. We have paid almost $7,000 in tapping fees. We have gotten a proposal that is in excess of $20,000 to connect to public sewer. Why we will have to do it and they are allowing some number of others to not do it ever is unfair. So I'm asking this board to reconsider the duty to connect ordinance to allow everybody to have the privilege that is being granted to a number of people in this project. Additionally, the actions of the MUA in not securing the necessary easement on the Rafferty property prior to beginning construction has delayed connection to public sewers for the Florida Park neighborhood. Again, you are responsible for having appointed these members. They are failing Newtown residents. Right now, the connection to public sewer in Florida Park is being held up because they didn't get the proper easement for electrical connection to a pump station. It's absurd. Florida Park has been waiting far longer than Echo Valley to be connected to public sewer and have a far greater need for it than Echo Valley ever had, and yet they still cannot connect almost 6 years after the last appeal. I am asking this board to please offer an update on the zoning rewrite. Please also update on why Episcopal has now posted a private property sign on the entrance to the Meadow Preserve where the township holds an access easement. Please give an update on the appraisals for open space consideration. These, like many other items, are punted to the next meeting and then never seem to make it back on the agenda. I would ask that please going forward, include them in old business until they have been resolved. Finally, of note in the school district is the return of the discussion of the school district athletic fields. It's on their agenda for tomorrow evening. Unfortunately, they are not making it available via Zoom. It's in their auditorium. If this is the same project initially proposed around 2018, I believe they should at the very least have a representative from our township at tomorrow night's meeting. I think it's important because due to the reassessment, there is likely to be a tremendous burden on many Newtown residents when they receive these year's school taxes. I really believe that Newtown supervisors should ask that the school district make at least biannual reports on their plans that would have an effect on any Newtown neighborhood. I mean, especially this year, especially with the reassessment, especially since COVID, we really should be, I believe, more concerned with the economic health of our residents. And this coming back on the agenda has me concerned. Finally, I have not seen any update on whether or not this township would consider some sort of accommodation for the paper streets in Newtown Heights. Would love to know what the status of the request for RFPs are. And on a final note, I made an application to get a mail-in ballot, which for some reason has taken the county in excess of 2 weeks, and they still have not mailed it out to me. So obviously I will be in person, but the notion of a ballot box is only helpful if you can get a ballot, which seems to be exceedingly difficult in this county. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Very briefly, we are aware of the connection waiver issue and our solicitor is following up accordingly. We have been working with the municipal authority on the issue regarding to the Rafferty access for quite some time now. The zoning rewrite is still with our solicitor being reviewed. And what was the last? What was the last thing?
The appraisal. The appraisal.
Oh, the appraisals. Yeah, we still haven't gotten the numbers back. The appraisers are aware. We asked Mr. Neese about it. He's checking with them. And so that's where we are. I do appreciate your comments, though. I can't help you with the county not sending the ballots back on time. Next we have.
I will just say for the,
Go ahead, Mr.
I was
Altieri.
just going to say the school district plans, from my understanding, it's the same plans that were approved, I think, of what they're doing now. And you'd have to confirm this with the school district because obviously we're not them, but my understanding is that they are just now going out the RFP on them. They were approved, as you know, it was then held up in litigation. And now I believe they're at the stage of going for the RFPs.
If the plans are the same as what we approved, then they would not be expected to come back for us anyway. So.
I don't think that they're changing at all.
Next on the agenda, we have Daniel Murphy. Mr. Murphy, if you could please give us your name and address for the record, and we'll hear your comments.
You need to unmute, Mr. Murphy.
All right. Yeah. Thank you all for your service to the township, the community here. My name is Daniel Murphy. I'm of 3516 Cayley Road. And, you know, I'm a little late to the party here, and I'm really not too familiar with the process of, you know, the township supervisor meetings and how to approach them. But I just wanted to offer a comment about the proposed plans to do the changes here at the Winding Way Park, the Greer Park pond and all. You know, I believe that there's a huge public sentiment from everybody I talked to in the neighborhood here. And Jan Mathis has raised a petition, got over 250 signatures electronically of township residents that are opposing the plans to change the park and, you know, really change the format of the park here. I think personally, I think that the plans to change the park are extremely flawed in that the concept is, okay, we're not getting enough people here to use the park. What can we do to make these parks more accessible and get more people coming to them? Well, Greer Park is like a little 6-acre park. And the thought that people are going to come and make a special trip out to Greer Park when there's the Willows, there's Ridley Creek State Park, there's the Okahocking Preserve, and Drexel Lodge Park. I mean, these are parks that are far bigger and far more attractive for many, many reasons. The great walking trails that they offer. I mean, people just are not going to come here to Greer Park, no matter what you do. And I think the concept that it's goose poop that's keeping people from coming to the park is a little ridiculous. In truth, I think that we should allow the park just to be what it is, which is a beautiful, small 6-acre green space in the middle of what's becoming a rapidly developing suburban community. And it has a really special energy about it. I'm standing right by the pond itself right now, and the geese are here, the fowl come here, they migrate through here. There's the frogs chirping at night, the fish, and it has a really nice energy about it, which I don't think the plans to develop it seem to be really out of sync with honoring the energy here, that they're going to build a road down in the middle of this thing and put a parking lot here and a boardwalk, and the idea that this is going to be somehow handicapped make it more available to handicapped individuals. And while it's a nice sentiment, I just don't think it's realistic that there's nothing that you're going to do here that's going to make this a more attractive park to come to than the other places. If you're going to get in your car and go somewhere, you're not going to come to a little 6-acre park. You're going to go to a bigger park that has, better facilities. And so that leaves us with what? With a park that's really here for the benefit of the people that live nearby. The people that come here are the people that live nearby. And there's 250 of them that said we don't like the plans. And I think in part, I just found out about this fairly recently. I think there's a lot of people that are unaware of the plans to develop the park here. And I think in part that's due to the COVID, we're all kind of shut in and closed off, and people are not available to come in person to show up at these meetings and speak their mind. And I would suggest revisiting this at a time when we can have personal meetings, but where people can show up in person. And I guess my question to you all was, have you ever had another issue where you had a petition with 250 township residents that are opposed to your plans. And I would like to see this item revisited before we move forward. And the final point I'd like to make is that if the township had to pay for this plan, which I believe was over $1 million, I don't think there was be any way that would go through. The idea that we're going to spend somebody else's money to get it done, it may seem attractive to you, but it's really a waste of resources if no one's going to use this place anyhow, which I think is this plan is just destined for failure. Again, due to the small size of this park, there's not going to be a place that people are going to want to come. And by building a road and a boardwalk and all, you're going to really ruin the nature of the green space here. So I thank you for your attention and the time you allowed me to speak here. And I'd be happy to follow up with, personal letters to the supervisors and Mr. Neese as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Murphy. Just to acknowledge that we've already had an extensive public participation process for the park plan as it stands now. So I do appreciate your comments.
Well, let me ask you a question. Was that done at a time when there was people could come to meetings, or was that all just done online on Zoom meetings?
Everything about the park is online or on the township website, sir. This is public comment, not public question and answer. If you have specific questions.
Got you. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other hands up? I see no other public comment. All right. And with that, we are in adjournment. I thank everybody for participating this evening. Our next meeting is Monday. I believe it's May 26th. Yes, Monday, May 24th. I'm sorry. Same time. Don't forget our budget meeting next Monday, 17th. If you wish to participate, and don't forget to vote on the 18th. It is a primary election day. So we are in adjournment. I thank everybody for participating and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.